please watch the last 10 minutes of this podcast, this video, because she's talking about Jeffrey Einstein before she died. You know, some royal family in England that take their nation's money, saying it's your job to support us with the royalties. People call the Rothschild screwed up. That royal family in England is more screwed up than the Rothschild family is. But I think Jill Danoff, or Dudoff, how he can't pronounce her name, was talking about the Jeffrey Einstein scandal a decade before it happened. I'm going to start the podcast.
When the contract killing theory was dismissed by police in the initial aftermath of Jill Dando's murder, the Serbian connection was not the only idea that was cast aside. The other was that a contract killer had been hired by a criminal gang or some similar underworld organization. She was, after all, the feminine face of the show Crime Watch UK for a good chunk of her career, and doubtlessly contributed to putting countless criminals behind bars. Of course, it is possible that she was targeted for this reason, but it is unlikely. She was not the only host of the program, and she only joined as a presenter after the previous female host departed the Crime Watch team for pastures new. Silencing Dando would certainly not stop the show from airing. And as I mentioned earlier, Crime Watch even ran a special edition of the show which reconstructed the events of Dando's murder and urged members of the public to come forward with information. If her murder was an attempt to pull Crime Watch off the airwaves, it certainly failed. It also seems like an extremely harsh form of retribution to have a woman killed simply because she facilitated the capture of criminals. Crime Watch gleaned all of the information on its suspects directly from the police themselves. It's not like Dando had any exclusive information regarding any high-profile crimes, or so it seems. For in 2014, a close friend and former BBC colleague of Dando's went public with some pretty explosive information. Although they insisted on remaining anonymous with their claims, the source told that Dando had been approached with evidence that DJs, celebrities, and other BBC staff were involved in an organized ring trafficking children. Dando apparently took the allegations extremely seriously, but was stunned when, according to the anonymous source, no one wanted to know of the concern she raised about the allegedly high-profile human trafficking ring. She is said to have compiled a file of evidence that she passed on to BBC senior management, but nothing came of it. No investigation into the apparent abuse was undertaken. The same anonymous source stated that although she did not want to implicate anyone and risk her own safety, she recalled that there were some shockingly famous names and faces included in the accusations. She also related that information regarding how to join said network was freely available, and how Jill had received a number of complaints from female colleagues who also claimed to have been assaulted. But nothing was done. Their complaints weren't addressed. There seemed to be an unspoken policy of turning a blind eye, and we may know the reason for such a policy. Jimmy Savile. James Vincent Savile, an English DJ, radio and TV host who headed BBC shows including Top of the Pops and Jim Will Fix It. He was a prolific fundraiser for charitable institutions and raised approximately £40 million for the needy during his lifetime. But he was prolific in other ways too. Upon his death in 2011, hundreds upon hundreds of women came out of the woodwork to accuse Savile of serious abuse. Subsequent investigations led police to conclude that Savile had perhaps been the most active and predatory offender in British history, all under the guise of a kindly, albeit eccentric, philanthropist. But Savile could never have conducted such rampant abuses if not for the complicity or apathy of the government and charitable institutions he associated himself with. By late October 2012, the scandal had resulted in inquiries or reviews at the BBC, the National Health Service, the Crown Prosecution Service, and the Department of Health, all of which tried to work out just how Savile was able to remain undetected, or rather, how the children he abused came to be marginalized and ignored. But a minor inspection of Savile's credentials showed that he was a very well-connected man indeed. He was made a knight bachelor by the British royal family,
Prince Andrew,
granted a papal knighthood by Pope John Paul II, and even gifted a Cross of Merit by the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. There is absolutely no doubt that Savile used such influence to cover up the crimes that he and his companions committed. By 2012, when the extent of Savile's abuse had been revealed to the public, Jill's fellow BBC presenter and possible identity of the aforementioned anonymous source, Sally Jones, revealed that Savile had tried to kiss and inappropriately touch her in a chance elevator encounter in the late 80s. When she had related the story to Jill, she was surprised to find that Jill held the opinion that the venerated DJ was nothing more than a dirty old pervert. Where others turned a blind eye or covered up Savile's crimes, it appears that Jill had no qualms calling him out for what he really was. Sally Jones even related that Jill Dando herself had to fend off plenty of unwelcome advances. DJ Liz Kershaw and former Country File presenter Miriam O'Reilly have also both claimed they suffered harassment at the BBC in the 1980s. Could this have been at the hands of Jimmy Savile? Regardless, when Miss Dando joined a campaign to help children spot these type of predators the year before she died, she had received death threats, putting the BBC in lockdown, with armed guards patrolling Television Centre in London to protect one of their most valuable assets. Could Dando have been silenced by a group of covert abusers led by Savile himself? It would seem to account for the wall of silence that remained until Savile's death in 2011. One woman's life would be a small price to pay for the continual cover-up of 6 decades of abuse. Savile himself once said that he believed he would be able to square things away with the big man upon his death, alluding to the idea that the weight of his good deeds would balance the scales. This is commonly believed to be a reference to the predatory behavior he himself knew was evil, but it could allude to other crimes too. Crimes such as the suspicious death of Liz McKeon. Liz McKeon, the former British investigative reporter who exposed Jimmy Savile in the culture of abuse protection at the BBC, was just 52 when she was found dead. The BBC, who blocked her groundbreaking investigation from airing and spent the next few years attempting to destroy her reputation, reported that she died of complications from a stroke. Liz McKeon was the second high-profile BBC journalist to die in suspicious circumstances after attempting to expose the truth about this ring operating in the upper reaches of the establishment.
Prince Andrew.
Dando was the first.
Prince Andrew's name was
On
part
May
of
21st, 1999, at Ebden Road Cemetery,
the sex
just 5
trafficking ring
miles
here in the
from
United
where she was
States.
born. Jill Dando was laid to rest next to her late mother, who died of leukemia just 13 years earlier. Friends and colleagues spoke of her selfless nature and warm demeanor. Laughs were shared, tears were shed, as a
Sex
dear friend
ring could have
and
been
beloved
busted
sister
a
was bid
decade before
farewell.
it was. That means it could have
BBC
been
royal correspondent Jeannie
busted
Bond
a decade
read
before it was
from
busted.
lyrics written by Christina Rossetti in 1848.
That means the people that was
I
victim
shall
the
not see
the
the
past
shadows.
10 years
I
before
shall
his
not feel the rain.
arrest
I
will
shall
have no
not
damn
hear
victims.
the nightingales sing on as if in pain.
Is this what that Jill Dando
Dreaming through the
or
twilight that
Dandolph,
doth not
how we
rise nor
can't
set.
pronounce her name, killed?
Happily I may remember.
Someone
Happily
asked me to do this
may
podcast today.
forget. Her co-presenter on Crime Watch UK, Nick Ross, told the story of how Dando would take off her high heels for the final shot of the show, so that each presenter would appear equal in height and thus none more important than the other. It was little things such as this that made Dando so lovable. She'd never stop thinking of others. Nick Ross would go on to propose the founding of an academic institute in Jill's name, raising over £1 million for the Jill Dando Institute of Crime Science at University College London.
Andrew
BBC also
of
set up
England,
a
the royal
bursary
family.
award in Dando's memory,
Once again showing
funding
this
one
royal
student
family
each
is
year
more
to
of a
study
cult
broadcast journalism
than
at
royalty.
University
They're more of a
College,
cult.
Falmouth.
And putting
The
murder
impact
on
of
their
Dando's
list
life and legacy are evident.
is nothing new.
Even 20 years after her death, she is remembered fondly by the public that so richly
Prince
adored her.
Andrews had his hand in it.
A memorial garden designed and realized by the BBC Television Ground Force team in Dando's memory, using plants and colors that were special to her, is located within Grove Park, Weston-super-Mare. The site is beautiful, a fitting tribute to her memory. But gazing upon such a serene, colorful,
My name is Sammy.
scene,
This is my YouTube podcast, my YouTube
it
channel.
stands in stark
I'll probably have to
contrast with the
reshoot
manner in
this
which she
video or
died,
watch it
in an
before I
ugly,
post it. I might have to
convoluted,
reshoot it
mysterious way. The
because I don't
reasons
know
for
how
which
good the
remain
camera was.
firmly in the dark. For those that loved her, those that worked with her, and those with a general interest in unsolved mysteries, one question still remains unanswered, clawing at the minds of the curious. Just who exactly killed Jill Dando?
Her case is unsolved. The royal family held their hands on it.